You know, on my last report, I opened the report with an interview, a short part of an interview with a lady who used to work on the wind farms, work on legislation for the wind farms. And what she revealed was incredibly significant, folks. I'm going to actually play it for you again here. It's like 3 minutes. So just in case you missed the last show, or in case this didn't sink in properly, listen to what this lady is saying and let it really sink in.
Now, you used to work for the federal government.
I did, yeah, for 7 years.
Doing what?
I was policy advisor for a Liberal Party senator. The area that I was working in was renewable energy, and basically it was my job to uncover a lot of the stuff that was going on with the Renewable Energy Act, which was put in 2002 under the Howard government. So that was the Liberal Party put the act in place, and I was looking at the mess that it had created. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the Renewable Energy Act creates a subsidy environment where if you build wind turbines, you're paid between $600,000 and $900,000 per turbine per year as a subsidy alone.
Well, if it's on your property.
No. So what happens is the wind company comes in and they pay a lease to the farmer to build the wind turbines, and that in effect makes sure that the farmer is still liable for the turbine.
Okay.
And they pay a lease of $12,000 a year usually, and the company gets paid between $600,000 and $900,000 per turbine per year.
So they pay $12,000 to the farmer, but they get $600,000
Exactly.
per turbine.
Yeah.
Which is a big incentive to put in turbines.
Yeah, and the landowner takes the liability for the turbine.
So he gets $12,000 a year, but if anything happens to it, he's got to fix it, or she's got to fix it.
Yeah, when they catch on fire,
Yeah.
they're responsible for their neighbours' properties going up in smoke. That kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And effectively that money, the subsidy that's getting paid to the wind farms, is reaming $40 billion a year out of the Australian economy. And it's paid by everyone, every pensioner, householder, schools, hospitals, everyone. It's not just out of your tax, it comes out of your power bill.
Is this why power bills are going up?
Yeah. That's why
So our power bills are going up to pay for wind turbines that don't work.
Exactly.
And why don't they work?
So they don't work because, for a start, they draw power off the grid, so they have to have coal-fired power in order to turn. They're not windmills, they're turbines. And essentially...
Sorry, what do you mean? The power to turn. So when we see them turning, that's not the wind, that's the power generator turning.
Essentially, they have to draw power off the grid, so they have to draw coal-fired power off the grid in order to turn. And what happens when the wind picks up, they do actually start to create electricity of their own, but that electricity is so intermittent and unreliable, when it gets back to the grid, it has to be balanced on the grid, which you can't do. And like with your coal-fired power station, you can't ramp your coal-fired power stations up and down. So the coal-fired power station stays at the same level because it takes 24 to 48 hours for them to get up to heat anyway, and they just let off steam as the wind comes onto the grid. So there's absolutely nothing about them that works apart from reaming that amount of money out of the Australian economy, and it's going offshore.
That money's going offshore.
And that's remarkable, folks. That's absolutely remarkable. These wind farms are coal-powered. They're electrical wind farms. These are turbines, they're not windmills. And you look at them, how could we ever have thought that they were windmills? Well, you've got these three thin little blades sticking up. If they were really supposed to be there to catch wind to provide electricity, wouldn't there be a whole bunch of blades? I mean, look at how a windmill works. You know, an actual windmill that's used as a mill. They used to use them for grinding stone, for grinding wheat, for grinding whatever. They had big grinding stones, big millstones set up inside the windmill, and it would turn through the wind power. And they would have multiple blades, and they would be thick, wide blades designed to catch the wind. These wind farms, they've got these three blades. They're not designed to catch the wind at all. They're just there using electricity. This is what they do, folks. They tell you that these are for electricity, but they're not. They go out, they purchase farmland that can now not be used for farming or grazing or anything like that because it's got a wind farm on it. They put in these huge turbines which suck power from the grid. That's all they do is suck power from the grid. The wind turbine companies get between $600,000 and $900,000 per windmill, per turbine on a wind farm. They might have 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 of them on one person's property. That person gets $12,000 for having them on the property. These guys get $600,000 to $900,000 per turbine, and all they are doing is drawing electricity from the grid. And if they ever start going fast enough to produce electricity, well, as she said, it's so unstable and so unbalanced that they can't use it. And if it goes back onto the grid, it's going to create instability, because a coal-fired power station, electrical power, when you get electrical power to your house, it's got to be stable. You can't be ramping it up and down all the time. You get dropouts and things blowing up. And the electricity supply in all of our homes has to be stable. When it's not stable, we run into all sorts of electrical problems. So of course it takes 48 hours to get the power station up and running. Once it's stable, they want to keep it stable. So if power comes in off the wind farms, the only thing they can do to keep it stable is to let off steam in the power station so the current remains constant. They can't use it at all. I mean, what are they going to do? Like reroute it somewhere else to a big jar that they keep the spare electricity in? Think about how this works, folks. So these things do absolutely nothing except drain massive amounts of power off the grid that you all pay for with your electricity bill, and they funnel $40 billion a year offshore. And this is happening in every single country that is running these wind farms. And the more they're talking about shutting down coal-fired power stations, the harder the electricity supply is going to be to maintain, because of course these wind farms, they're going to be putting up more and more wind farms, the more coal-fired power stations they shut down, and eventually they'll just have enough coal-fired power stations to run the wind farms, and they'll be trickling energy out to you and telling you that it's your fault because you use too many plastic bags. This is a scam, folks. This is like the mafia has got nothing on what our government is doing with this wind farm situation. This is the biggest scam, and this is what is driving the climate change agenda. And if your government has wind farms on land in your country, this is what they are doing. Think about it and let that really sink in.